going to play out is going to be really going to be on a nation-to-nation basis because of what each country has to offer. But make no mistake, there's no policeman in the world anymore. Everything is all wild, wild west.
Thursday, April 20th, 2023, Minago 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with John Lee, is the CEO and executive chairman of Silver Elephant Mining. John, nice to have you back again. How are you?
Great to be back, Mario. It seemed like yesterday, but in a flash of an eye, it's been 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. We spoke on October 30th, 2022. And at the time, you said that the elites were suppressing the paper gold price while backing up the truck with physical. And you certainly seem to have been right, because we've seen from the World Gold Council that central banks, especially those not in the West, accumulated the most gold, net gold, in recorded data from the World Gold Council in 2022. And today, as we speak, gold is up about 21%. It was around 1650. Right now, we're just above 2000. And silver is up 31%. It was at 1925, and we're now just above 25. So how do you see things progressing in the precious metals market, but also maybe in the economy and the geopolitical situation?
Right, Mario, I came on your show and I said that the worst is over for gold and silver. And, I will not put too much emphasis, or I will not put too much weight into the reported gold purchases. These are all government figures, and if you don't believe their CPI numbers, if you don't believe their inflation numbers or employment numbers, why would you cherry picking on things like because they are reporting in your favor and somehow you take them as Bible? However, I don't think there's any question that central banks and the elite individuals are buying gold. For the biggest reason, as we mentioned 6 months ago, is that diversification of central bank holding and the change in the political landscape that happens not only once in a decade or two, but once in a generation. And that the dollar of the Bretton Woods Accords and the standardizing of the dollar as global reserve is only a marriage of convenience. And the sort of the today is very different from back in the 70s in terms of the Saudis buying gold, selling oil to United States, and now they don't do that anymore. And also sort of the alliance and the United States playing the statesman of the world, that is broken down as well. And what we talked about really come to fruition in the last 6 months, as we see the BRICS. Not only the Chinese and the Russians are sort of forging a unified front, but you have the South Americans and the Indians and whatnot. They're all, and the Saudi Arabia all banded together and sort of voicing their displeasure on how the world is governed. And I think we're going to see a lot of other interesting developments and situations going to accelerate this division of the world. I think really quickly also that, Mario, I believe I came on your show. I've been doing a couple of shows recently that, we packed the gold target of about 2,000 and then silver breaking out of 28. I thought that would have probably happen like in September. People, I think, reading some of your comments in the comment section, some of the people call me loonies when gold is 1,600 and say, gold is going to take out 2,000. And lo and behold, I am, I think right now we're at a 50-50 juncture because the dollar, like we talked about, when I thought it was 110 or 112 when I was on your show, I said it's going to oscillate at the 100 to 110 range. And now we're at the bottom of that consolidation range where gold is at that near all-time high. I'm not sure if gold is going to take a crack at it on this try this time, because the dollar may stage a rally after such a big correction in such a short period of time. However, it is not a high confidence prediction. Certainly, if you have a trader, it's a good idea to take a bit of it off the table as you're hitting that resistance and dollar hitting the support. But you got to keep that core position. I think that's overall. We can talk about equities and BRICS and other things.
I agree with you. If you're a trader, it does feel like we could see further pressure here, just above 2,000. But yes, if you are a stacker and you hold physical gold and silver, I think, yeah, in the short and medium term, you will see volatility in the price. But in the long term, I've looked at some charts. There's a good website, FX Top. You can reverse the chart.
Upside down.
Yeah, by putting the dollar first and gold second, and all the fiat currencies, they've lost like over 90% in the last 50 years versus gold. So long term, I think that's going to continue. And yes, last year, of course, Russia and Ukraine was a very important topic for commodities, for currencies, in terms of geopolitics. But it seems to be, becoming less important. I think the Russians have proved that they've been able to withstand the pressure from the West. And there's been a huge move as well by the BRICS. We knew already then that the BRICS wanted to have a multipolar world, but it's really accelerated. Like on December 7th, we saw the Saudis and the Chinese meeting and talking, and also the Gulf cooperation.
Yes.
So, and then recently we saw that Brazil and China said they're going to deal in their own currencies. So, but there's still a lot of people out there that seem to think the dollar will remain king, and maybe as a currency to trade. But even then, I'm not too convinced. What's your view on that? They seem to me to be a little bit in denial.
Yeah, Minago 64, the dollar, I think gold it will break out of that inverse relationship with the dollar. Dollar is fiat, but the other G7 or G8 currencies are subordinated to the dollar. And I think I was on your show. I think everything all look pretty much the same. The pound, the euro, and they're just playing this. I think what the cartels and the managers of the governors of the governments are. It's almost like they want to trick into sort of people not paying too much attention to gold by staging the dollar up and down and try to keep people in that game of currency arbitrage. But I'm not any bullish of the. I'm not very bullish of the pound like I'm very bullish of the dollar. I think they're all much the same. One thing you talked about. Remember about back in the days, maybe 5-7 years ago, when North Korea fired a rocket and gold would be at $30. The Ukraine-Russia war is not going away, and it's not diminishing. The significance is not diminishing. It's just because the media is not reporting about it. But you still have billions of dollars worth of weapons and arms that are going into it. Thousands of people are dying on a daily basis. Hundreds or thousands of people are dying on a daily basis. It's not going away. However, like we said before, people asking me when that war is going to end, and my answer is, when is the next one going to start? And I think it's becoming increasingly clear that the war is only a pretense for a change of regime, and nothing is going to. And Zelensky has made clear that they're not going to negotiate with the terrorists, the Putin, and we also talked about the Xi Jinping being post greatest threat to democracy. And I don't think there's going to be any letdown until there's a regime change. And further reflection, I just want to clear sort of my thoughts are, this is not an East versus West. And this is not even a philosophical democracy versus dictatorial. These are the two sides of the same coin. What's happening is, it's clear for all to see that Biden is not calling the shots. And people are calling the shots are the same people that started the Opium War in the 1800s, the same people that disintegrated USSR in the early 90s, and then in turns then ransacked all the looter, like all the treasures from China to London, and all the oil to ExxonMobil's and Chevron's. Maybe it's not the same people, maybe their grandchildren, right, or the children. But the storylines are the same. So what you have is people are waking up to it, and the Brazilians and the Indians and the Turkish and the Russians and the Chinese, we're not going to put up this. We're going to repudiate. We're not going to be putting up with this movie, like remember that movie 300 or 100? You have the giant guy descending on, and then so this is exactly where we're at, and then how it's going to play out is going to be really going to be on a nation to nation basis because of what each country has to offer. But make no mistake, there's no policeman in the world anymore. Everything is all wild west, up for grab, and the situation is not going to be any easier. And answer your question, the dollar is going to still be the king of fiats, but the real gain to be had is in the precious metals space, and also in some of the emerging market as they start decoupling from the dollar standards that are breaking away from the dollar. One last quick note, just another observation and comments, and I've talked about in other shows, is just because all the BRICS nations have a common enemy in just the dollar, or sort of repudiating what the United States brown-nosing into their business, just because they have a common enemy per se doesn't mean they're friends. Okay, they all have a long history, and this is not like the Eurozone, kind of at the same time zone. You cross the border, have a dinner, and you have the same sort of governments and easy to get a unified currency. But even in that regard, right? You have the Spaniards and the Greeks and Italians are reaching their debt ceilings, and a lot of quarrels. In the case of Russians, and I don't think they're going to standardize on what time they're going to hold those meetings, whether it's 9 o'clock Russian time or 4 o'clock Indian time. Not to mention the language difference, the cultural barriers. Who's going to set this unified currency interest rates? And rest assured, these guys are almost dictatorial prima donnas. They're not gonna take it, take the renminbi printed at the backyard of Beijing's Xi Jinping's back pocket and be happy taking too much of it. I would not be surprised if they, obviously, if you have two nations that are trade numbers are close to equal, then you're not really reserving any currency per se. But I'm sure over the course of over the months and maybe a year, a couple of years to come, when you're getting too much Chinese currency, for example, what is to stop from China exerting the same sort of pressure on the SWIFT system? That's what United States is doing, and let's be clear about the motives. Okay, so this arrangement is going to be just arrangement of convenience. It's going to be broken down very, very quickly, and in the end, Minago 64 is going to be like Charles de Gaulle taking the currency exchange for gold when it's not there. It's however much gold you have in your vault, and you can then do that much trade. It really is going to boil down to this in the end.
Yeah, what it seems to me is that it will discipline countries, because if they don't have the gold, their currency is going to go down the chute. And it's interesting that you go back to the Opium Wars, because yes, there's a lot that's happened in the last 200 years. I've heard as well about the fact that the last Chinese emperor, a lot of the gold from that dynasty was like given to the Americans for them to safeguard. I'm not sure if that's true, but and maybe that's still there, and maybe that's why the Chinese have been buying back the gold. I don't know, but and there's also the story about the Tsar, when his family they were all killed in 1918, I think it was, that he had a lot of gold in the London and New York and Paris banks. And where's that gold gone?
There's billions dollars worth of hundreds of tons of gold and silver that was shipped from USSR and all to Switzerland, to Switzerland. The storyline is always the same: divide and conquer, divide and conquer. And when there's chaos, there's looting, and the guys that engineer these events are stand behind to benefit. There's also the stories about the Khazarians and not even the Jewish, but that finance Marxism and Lenin, and also Mao Zedong to China. I would not be surprised. The history is, as we see it in the last few years, very clear that whoever wrote the histories are the victors that do. So you got to really give a grain of salt of what you read happened 10, 50, or 200 years ago.
Yeah, so I guess what's happening now is the people who have had control of the gold and the system since Bretton Woods, they've been challenged. And you think now we're going to get like the Wild West, because there's not going to be one country in charge. But one question I have for you, is a lot of people say, well, but America has the biggest Navy. They spent more on defense than the next 14 or 10 countries
Yep.
put together. But the same thing could have been said about the Soviet Union, maybe
Yep.
back in 1989, 1990. And once they collapsed, their armed forces were like up for sale.
Well, you don't have to go back to 1990. You look at the Russia-Ukraine war, and Putin and everybody is under the impression that the affair will be gone and over with in a matter of days. And yet a year later, here we are, and emperors being shown to be wear no clothes. The Taiwan China situation is deliberately instigated, and if a rocket's fired, which is easily done. China is, one time flew up to 60 planes and a dozen dozen vessels, including 2 aircraft carrier, entirely engulfing the Taiwan Strait to the eastern side of Taiwan. Did you see anything show up from the United States? No. If rockets fired and landed in Taiwan from China, either by accident or on purpose, and if the United States doesn't show it, doesn't sort of come to resolve, then that would be, and then, that is when the moment really sort of moment of epiphany really is that, holy cow, the Japanese will be thinking, well,
Yeah.
maybe we gotta have a direct dialogue with let's do a barter, right, with China and Russia and reaching out elsewhere, because before it was just way too easy. America's word is gold, and now it's like, holy cow, if that war does break out and the United States has stepped up to the plate, and the hell really gonna break loose everywhere. You're gonna see a lot of the conflicts that had originated decades, centuries ago. They're gonna come home to roost. And one other point, while there's a lot of cozy of China and Russia, keep in mind that during the early 1900s. And also the late 1800s, won the Opium War. China lost thousands of square kilometers of Manchuria, northeastern China, to Russia. So they don't have that entire engulfing area to have access to sea. And there is now some talks within China about they're almost waiting eagerly, like an eagle watching over, just for that moment of Russia they're playing their own interest. And if Russia were to all be concentrating their firepower on the Western region, I think China is eyeing back these lands. They study history, and it's like I said one more time, just because they have a common enemy doesn't mean they're friends at all.
Interesting. And you said that, like the BRICS is, there's a lot of division. It's not uniform, different languages. And yeah, I've also heard that and seen that China and India, for example, they don't have a great relationship. So, and they're part of BRICS. But so you think Taiwan, because I've seen that Taiwan and China is Taiwan's greatest trading partner. So why would Taiwan want to enrage China and vice versa? Do you think it's being provoked by the Americans as an excuse? But if the Americans are not gonna step up to the plate, why they're doing this? And what you said as well about if something happens vis-a-vis China and Taiwan, and the Americans don't do anything, Japan will be worried. They're going to say, well, we need to look for new partners, just like maybe Saudi Arabia when the U.S. left Afghanistan in 2021. They made a week later they made an agreement with the Russians for military cooperation.
Yeah, Saudis one day, they OPEC one day increased production, and then America say, oh, you don't produce too much oil with climate change, and the next day they don't produce so much oil, and they say you are sabotaging my economy, and the Saudis just have enough of it. I don't like to talk politics too much, but I'm a Taiwan native. I actually spend quite a bit of my time there right now. Every government is two sides of the same coin. The only reason the DPP, which is the government in place in Taipei, Taiwan right now, they're in charge only because if they go back to if the country go back to the mothership, they lose their jobs. Okay, let's make no pretense about it. And I think that the reason there's probably, my guess, this is my speculation, that the reason that rocket has been fired because the guys calling the shots in Taipei and Beijing are still yet to reach a deal, right? They could be talking, hey, look, if you fire a shot and if we don't do it, if we surrender, like if we just wave the flag, what do I get out of it? What do I get out of it? You'll be surprised, Mario, having studied history of how South American countries rise and fall, that how easily a government can bring down, like the case of Bolivia, for example. It takes few thousand people marching into the presidential palace with few dynamites thrown at the police, and everybody stood down, and that was the end. The president didn't fly, and the same story is repeated in many different countries. So I would not be surprised that if the guys are under the table are sort of discussing an arrangement of what pieces go to where and who's going to own what and who's going to occupy what post. I would not be surprised at all. Unfortunately, the guys that sacrifice are the ordinary, gullible, ordinary mom and pops that are just there. I mean, just like Ukraine again, right? Do you think Zelensky is really going after for the benefit of Ukrainian and refuse to come to the negotiating table with second largest nuclear superpower in the world? No, doesn't make any sense. And then, so same with situation in Taiwan. Like, why would you want to invite Pelosi to visit? And why would you want to go to the United States? Like, you're not achieving anything other than provoking, right? So I think there's a lot of different dynamics at play. We just gotta wait and see. I think there's a lot of people that are fairly credible in calling for a some action to take place sooner than later. We just have to wait and see. The world is just only going to become more unpredictable as time go on. You also have a lot of the Europeans, the Germans, and the French are visiting China. I think by the textbook, they wouldn't have done so. So clearly, while there is some national gravity that are pulling away from the transnational agenda. So I think it's just gotta go country by country basis, Mario.
Yeah, interesting about Taiwan. I mean, I've looked into history. I like looking at history. I'm a student of history, and I know that up until the 70s or 80s, Taiwan was like a military dictatorship. And yes, they call it a democracy now. But the other thing is China has caught up. Mainland China has caught up economically quite a bit with Taiwan. Taiwan was always more prosperous up until maybe 20, 30 years ago. So what you're telling me is that what we're seeing, maybe all the stories and the crises and the supposed provocations, these are just the mainland Chinese and the Taiwanese negotiating. Do you think there's a real strong, you being from Taiwan originally, there's a real strong willingness to reunite? Because after all, the Taiwan, Chiang Kai-shek, he was in mainland China. He just fled there from the Civil War. Is that what's happening now?
Mario, you're saying that, hey, it's one day Newcastle United and Manchester United fans are gonna get together and be friends. No, you don't know. Like, I think that, these are very polarized people with different opinions. However, my point is that you're either green or you're blue. Neither parties are looking after the interests of the ordinary people. So I think the government should be focused to stay away from businesses and should be if on the world stage they really should be bargaining on behalf of national corporations with strong roots to Taiwan that are committed to the success of Taiwan, right? I mean, from that regard, but instead of what they're doing is politicking about, which side Taiwan should be on, either the Chinese side or the American side. But it doesn't really matter which side it is. If jobs are not created, if business don't thrive, and if the economy is not opening up and there's too much restrictions in place. And you talked about dictatorship 30 years ago. I don't think today is any better. I think they allow, just like UK, they allow you to go on the streets and say whatever you want. But when push comes to the shove, when they have a mandate, when they have agenda they want to shovel onto you, they're just going to do it regardless. I mean, like, can you imagine, like, I mean, Mario, if like right now your Sunak, the Rishi, your prime ministers, I mean, clearly want to sort of move forward with the digital currency, of which he has a investment in some of these technology companies. I mean, can you imagine, like, is he really going to care if 60-70% of UK people go on strike and protest against this new digital currency mandate? You think they're going to have a change of mind? No. So instead, they're letting you argue about, LGBTQ, PQ, and then the sort of, the soap operas, but the real things that real matters to the echelons. That decision making is being long gone. That's my view.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying, it doesn't matter whether you're in China, Taiwan, the US, EU, UK, the powers that be are always going to do what's best for them, and they're neglecting the public.
I think that's what's happening. I mean, even I can tell clearly from just working as a company publicly listed in Canada, every day is getting increasingly more difficult to do business from all aspects. The regulators are very tardy in their responses. Even private corporation, many of them gone woke, hiding behind keyboards and disappears from time to time. You can't get hold of somebody, want to call them and try to chase down things, getting things done. It's a state of paralysis, and things are getting worse in doing business. We'll now have to file ESG, climate change, and there's just a lot of overlapping departments. Paperwork is getting shuffled around. Nobody makes a decision. It's a classic socialism, communism style. So we'll share with you, in socialist countries, like South America or in China, decision making is always a resort to what they call the working group. And the working group is members of representation, different sections of the government. And even they cannot see eye to eye from amongst themselves. And so it's incredibly difficult right now to getting business done. And I just don't see things get better, unfortunately, Mario.
Yeah, and you said that in this Wild West world where, there isn't one power there policing, like John Wayne, the US, precious metals will become much more important, because I think it was Alan Greenspan who said, in a world of war and in a world of crisis, payment is only accepted in gold really, and maybe silver, because currencies like fiat currencies can be frozen, can be like we've seen with the Russians. So with that, maybe you could tell the viewers a little bit about silver elephant mining and how you're trying to exploit the fundamentals for precious metals with silver mining elephant.
Sure, Mario. Before that, I just want to revisit our price targets. I think last time when I was on the show 6 months ago, when gold is 1,700, silver is about just touched 19. I packed us gold at 2,000 and silver to break out 28. So gold has reached that target, and it's yet to be seen whether that level can be held on. But if not, then we might have a little bit slow summer and then have another go at it in September. But my target is getting upgraded. I think gold is going to easily surpass 2,000 by the end of the year, and a conservative target 2,200. But not be surprised if gold gets to 2,400. A lot of that is going to be depend on the where dollars headed, interest rates. I think interest is going to resume uptrends. Equity market, I think, is bottom, and right now all of them are sitting comfortably above 200 average. So I'm not into the camp of sort of Robert Kiyosaki and the Peter Schiff that is, it's falling down. In fact, the world's reflating, and they have this pent-up demand from Asia that's just coming out of the pandemic health mandates. So overall, the world's reflating. I'm quite sort of neutral on. I don't think it's falling into pieces. It's reflating right now, but the gold is going to take, and I think silver is a bit of a laggard. But it's going to play catch up because it's still sort of reeling from the equity correction and just the crypto carnage. So silver is more speculative, and right now we're just not quite into that realm of speculation, but the gold to silver ratio is going to continue to trend down. It was almost 100 when we talked, and now it's about 80. And that thing's going to go to probably by the end of the year closer to 60. So if you have a gold to ratio, gold at 2,400 and a 60 gold to silver ratio, you'll be looking at a $40, $50 silver, which is my target for this year. Once silver takes out $20 to $8, which I believe it will, and it would be done so in a hurry, then it will get to $35 briefly, and then from there it could be anybody's guess. So I think that's overview of where I see things at. The dollar will still continue to be about 100 to 110. Equity would be sort of consolidating in the current range. Silver elephant, we're coming out of the woodworks. We came out of the equity correction wreck intact, and the thesis is now for people that have a bit of risk appetite to looking into the mining sector, because the equity market has bottomed in my view. And even though gold is near breakout to all-time high and silver is gone up 30%, unfortunately, Mario, majority of the gold mining and silver mining company are still in the doldrum, 20% from the bottom, because of the slacks in the equity market, also the carnage from the crypto market, which shares a common set of investors with the mining equities. So, and you can see that it's poking out the 200-day moving average, and the volume's increasing. And the idea about a company like Silver Elephant is it's got about 100 million ounces of silver in the ground that's been independently verified. At the current valuation of $20 million, you're paying 20 cents for an ounce of silver in the ground. Of course, the question then becomes, look, how much does it cost to build the mine? How much does it cost per ounce to extract the silver? I don't have all the answers with all the uncertainties, inflation. And but the idea is the valuation is really in the eye of the beholder, is that art and science. But what I can tell you, in the peak of the moment, in the prior silver tops, like when 2011 when silver is $50, or even in 2021 when silver went from 14 to almost $30 in 2 months, the value at the top of the market, silver market, when things are heated, the companies are often being valued at $1 an ounce, and that's exactly what Silver Elephant were in the previous occasions. Trading at close to $100 million based on $1 per ounce valuation. So right now we're 20% from where we were, and our valuation is around 20% from what we were only not even a year ago. So if you look at the chart of 1 year chart, I think it's a better reflection.
Oh yeah, right here.
Exactly. So I think we're at about the $2.50, and we're around 50 cents, about a fifth of what we were just a couple of years ago.
Can you?
So I think it's an opportunity. The company's trading is the valuation is low as it's ever been. And I also just want to preface that there's nothing undisclosed material information that are negatively impacting the stock. It's just a matter of people have exhausted their patience, and somebody's loss is somebody else's gain. Mario.
Yeah, and could you explain to the viewers at what stage you are in terms of right now? You're just an exploration company,
right?
But you plan to start producing, and you also have a bit of cash flow coming from coal operation in Mongolia.
Right. The idea for silver is we try to not make it too complicated, Mario. It takes a lot of effort to put a mine into production, from all aspects of putting together a team, community relationship, government permits, logistics, transportation, buyers, contract deliveries, etc. So I think right now it's key that we just reunite, rekindle the investor interest in the project, and then bring the company back to a bit of fair valuation with our peers right now, which is trading quite a bit of multiple based on their valuation of per ounce in the ground. Right now we're about 20 cents. Some of the others are close to 50 or 60 cents. The time to make a production decision or to make a strategic exit through mergers and acquisition or sales will be probably looked at when silver is closer to the top than when we are. So right now we're 30% from the bottom, as you said. I think when silver price is closer to the top, in the range of probably $40 to $50 by the end of the year. And I don't think the fast lady is seeing even at that time. It could go a lot higher, depending on where the gold and geopolitics and where the dollar is. We'll be looking at our exit strategy at that point in time. So we're not in a hurry to put the mine into production, especially given the mobility the long lead time of everything from permitting, equipment-wise. And it's just not the time to be hero right now. And rather, it's a time to be de-risking the project. It sounded really cliche, but that's what we're doing. Continue to foster community relations, complete our permitting process, complete updated economic studies. However, I mean, Mario, we're not drilling right now at this point. We don't need to because the project is over 100,000 meters drilling already. There's already enough drilling to prove enough ounces. So we're not an exploration story per se, but I would say we're more towards a development stage company. So that in itself carries a bit less risk because you don't have that exploration risk to having to come up or betting in hope of discovery. So we're beyond that stage. On the coal, it's not an emphasis for us right now. It is generating cash flow, and cash flow is repatriating from Mongolia to Vancouver. Expansion of a mine is a very complex process. I think we're quite happy with the current rate that we're doing. And I would just defer till we publish our financial statements in about a few weeks' time. At that time, we have that full disclosure because I don't want to be going to the discussion of how much you're making per ton, what you're selling. So we just started the operation, and coal prices, like silver, is remaining quite volatile.
Great. And where can viewers, if they are interested in Silver Elephant, and again, this is not financial advice. We're not telling you to buy it. You should do your due diligence. It is speculative. I mean, if the silver price actually stays where it is and you start producing silver, the value could go up quite a bit. Or if you don't start producing or the silver price goes up, the value might go up some. So maybe tell the viewers where the stock is traded and what the ticker is.
Yeah, I never pound my chest and say put all your eggs in Silver Elephant. Even myself don't do that. It's one of the most challenging mining is one of the most challenging business to be in. And I often say that if you're successful running a mining company, you can be successful in a lot of different things. Our website is silverelef.com, as you saw there. The ticker is ELEF. On the Toronto Stock Exchange main board, and over the counter is OTCQX at SILEF. And Mario, I just came out of a 6-month hiatus on Twitter because I was dedicating a lot of time in just getting the projects off the ground and getting the company in good shape, which is we are right now. We just raised $1 million to over $1 million for each of our companies. So there right now we're embarking on. We brought out a couple more directors on the board. You can also look me up at Twitter at John Lee Silver Elephant, of which I have a lot of analysis on the market, on the equities, on currencies, on gold and silver. So right now, keep looking at a bit of consolidation, but I would not be surprised if gold carries through. Like yesterday, I think the cartels tried really hard to get gold, put the lid on the 2000. Yet, at near closing, you see that very fierce rebound back, right? So that means that there's going to be it's quite strong support. People are not afraid to challenge the correction. And they're sticking their nose where they don't belong at the cartel sees. So it's a tug of war going on. And then my prediction is if gold can clear $2,000 and stay over 2,000 by the end of April, then we can see some really very serious fireworks. You can see gold up to $30, $40 a day for consecutive days and breaching out that 2,200 level, challenging on a $2,400. And the most spectacular gain in that scenario will be silver. So watch out for silver for the next weeks. If not, we can talk again in September and see where things are.
Great, John. I look forward to speaking to you in September, maybe even before if we get fireworks.
Thank you, Mario.
You're welcome, and have a great day.
You too.